In this video, we'll talk about import and export modules. So in JavaScript, it's very common to import a one function from one file to another file because we build a reusable functions. Like suppose you have a function that sum two numbers, you are using that same function in multiple file. It's not preferable to write the same function again and again. So we'll move that function to a util file, right? So every time we'll call that function from that particular file. So that's how we're gonna learn how it works in JavaScript. So before import, you need to understand how to export a function. Okay, so to export a function or a variable, you need to use the export keyword. So here in the example, I'm creating a variable const. It should be as const name Nikhil, and if you add the export keyword in front of this variable, it will be applicable to be import in the somewhere other library. Similarly, if you have a function get name, you can import this method in the another library. And instead of only export, you can define the export default as well, but we use export default keyword to export only one variable or a method from a file that you want to consider it to be as a default, right? So this is how we use export keyword for export the variables or the method. In imports, we have different ways to import the variables and the method, but to import, the common thing is the import keyword. In all ways we use import keyword. We can, when there is the normal export, that is without default keyword, we use this curly bracket and define the names, and we'll give the file path. And if you want to export all the members, suppose in a single file you have 20 members you are exporting, you can't write 20 times this in the curly bracket. So it's better to export all member together by using the star as utils, and utils will be used as your alias. So if you want to access something, you will use utils.name, and you can use import a module with the default member. If there is exporting with the default, you don't need to use a curly bracket, you just need to define the name and it gets imported. So let's go to our VS Code and see how it works, import and export in real time. So to perform the import and export operation, first thing you have to do is to tell your library or your HTML, like your script is applicable for importing the module, and to do that you need to pass a attribute type module. So this will tell, okay, this library has the power now to import the methods or the variable from the other file. Okay, so our file is script.js. Let's go and create another file called utils.js. Here we will write our reusable methods, and from here we're gonna export to script.js. So first thing we'll see normal export. So the normal export, you can say export const pi is a constant value 3.14. So I'm exporting a pi value, right? Then you can export the members or the methods. So we can say export function add a plus b, and this method just print a plus b in the console. So this method we are exporting, it should be comma, these are the parameters. Yeah, so this is how we export a normal variable and the normal function. And to import this type of exports, you need to write, because right now we don't have any default keyword in this, so you simply go to your file, you say import, I am importing. If you are exporting multiple things or multiple function or multiple variables, you go with this notation curly bracket and you give your variable name pi and your method name add, and you have to say from where I'm calling from the path you are using utils.js. So now this variable pi and the method add is available in your file, and to confirm that I'll put the console pi and I'll say add method. So we need to call this, and we need to pass some data as well, because we need to pass some number which can get added up. I'll just zoom it. So here it's printing the value of a pi and the value of phi. So this is an example of normal export. You can export together as well. So if I remove the export keyword from here, and I'll say directly export phi as well as add, it will work. This is how we define export together. In one place you can export in one go. Then we need to see how we can export with alias. Suppose here you given the name something like pi data, but you want to export it as a pi because in the import we are using pi. So we can go with another approach, that is export with alias. And in this you can say simply export pi underscore data as pi and add normally as and. So we just change the reference, like pi data will understand by the pi, we are giving an alias, and add, let it be as a add. So you can export with alias as well. Now let's try to export it with the default. So I'll create another variable here, and this is mainly used in the libraries. Export with default. I'll create a function minus. It will also take a and b as an input, and it will console dot log a minus b, and I'll say export default. So if a member or a variable is default in a library, only one default member can exist in a single JS file. So you can directly import it without the curly bracket like this. You can say import minus, and I'll call this minus function dot log minus function 10 comma 5, so it should print 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. If I say 8 minus 5, it's 3. So it's printing it. Now you can see that how default import works, how the name import works, like multiple imports we can. And if I want to import everything from that file, from this JS file, everything, I can do the another operation, that is the star, to import everything. So I'll say import star as utils, whatever inside the file it consider as a utils from utils.js. And to use that I have to use it like utils.py, utils.add, and utils.minus. But minus is default. Let's change it default to normal, and now you can import that. So this is how you import multiple or the all imports or all exports. So this is very important, and where we're going to use this when we create a common files in the JavaScript, when we create the reusable functions. So like you are creating a function that append the dollar in the numbers, or adding the commas in the number, or you are adding the error messages in the number, right? So you can create the reusable util library, and you can export and import it in this way, and the syntax will be remain same in LWC. Okay, so this is how the export import works in JavaScript as well as in LWC. So now in next video we're gonna talk about the query selector, like how we can fetch the data from the HTML, or how to fetch the element from the HTML. So I'll see you in the next video.